Hi everybody. Recently, I collected a bunch of spin footage with my various cameras, and that was for a small project on spins that I was doing for some friends. I was comparing various effects in different recoveries, and just around the time that I was putting my project together, Scott Perdue published his Spin Heresy video. Here's a link to that video in descriptions. In his video, Scott says it's a good idea to hold full aft elevator to increase rudder effectiveness and stop rotation in a spin. Is Scott wrong? It turns out that I tested what he was saying. So I collected footage on a number of 3-turn left-hand spins, and these were all done on the same flight on the same day. It's 200 pounds of me in the back seat and only 4 gallons of fuel aboard. So the center of gravity is about as far aft as we can legally have it. The ailerons are held neutral, but you may notice them slightly out of position due to aerodynamic forces. Here's a link to a video for more detail on that effect.
In general, you want to go idle neutral aft. If the ground is going to the right, step on the right rudder. When the yaw stops, neutralize all controls and recover from the dive. Okay, so there I said it. That's a spin recovery technique.
All right, let's check out these 3-turn spins to the left where we hold full aft stick until rotation stops. On the left side of the screen, I'm adding one more clip, and this was taken the day before where we did the same thing, but I had an extra 50 pounds of gas in front of the cockpit. I'll play all of these simultaneously until we get to the point where we start a recovery. Take note of the pitch attitude before the recovery starts. Except for the one with more forward CG, they're all around 40 degrees below the horizon, maybe a little bit more flat than nose down. This one here takes about 1 1/8 turns to recover. This one takes 1 1/4 turns. And over here, this one takes another 1 1/4 turns. Over here on the right side of the screen, we have the slowest recovery. This took about 1 5/8 turns to stop rotation. We're comparing recoveries on the same day at the same loading, so rudder to stop rotation before easing off back pressure, in this case, averages out to about 1.33 turns. So 1 1/3 is our number to beat. For grins, let's take a look at this recovery from the day before where we had an extra 50 pounds of fuel up front. See how it settled into a much lower pitch attitude in the spin? This one's out in only 3/4 of a turn.
When presented with facts that don't support your theory, then you must modify your theory to fit the facts.
So now, let's take a look at recoveries where we release back pressure around the same time as we apply opposite rudder. These were done on the same flight after the first set of spins. This one is out in 7/8 of a turn. This one here is out in 3/4 of a turn. Here's another one done at 3/4 of a turn. The worst case, which is this one, took 1 3/8 turns. That averages out to about 9/10 of a turn. So releasing back pressure and getting the angle of attack down, combined with rudder, stops the rotation just shy of half a turn faster. And this is at 3 turns. And this difference in recovery technique varies linearly. Here's a 10-turn spin. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It takes a full 3 more turns to stop rotation with rudder pedals alone and full aft stick. However, it only took 1 1/2 turns with a combined recovery. Unfortunately, I didn't have my camera set up properly for that. Does this mean that Scott Perdue is wrong? Well, no. What's happening is we're all missing some nuance and detail here. For example, Scott likes to cite a reference from Aerodynamics for Naval Aviators. A lot of us nerds have read this book a few times through, and it's pretty good. It's so good, in fact, that the authors chose to italicize this word in Scott's reference, initial. The book's not saying that we have to hold full aft stick until rotation stops, which seems to be what's getting conveyed in that short clip I played earlier. It's saying we just initially might assist the rudder with a little bit of aft stick. But if you watch Scott's video in detail, He describes a lot of factors to include the effect of wings, gyroscopic effects, etc. The specific airplane you're flying, as well as its specific loading for that flight, have great effects on the airplane's behavior in the spin and at the best recovery available. Scott does talk about this, but this nuance is lost. For my money, I'd be very slow to coach a pilot away from knowing boldface items in their particular POH or AFM, and they'd have NASA's PARE recovery as a backup. But Scott's not advising that. Scott is talking about a general loss of spin awareness. So it's not so much that Scott's wrong, but we might not be hearing what he's actually trying to say. And what he's trying to say might be getting buried under idle neutral aft. Anyway, thank you for your time.